Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I am the entree musician, and so are you. And welcome to another exciting episode of the Entree Musician. This episode is probably my most personal episode because I've never interviewed my brother before. Yep, that's right. My brother, we did not have biological moms and dads, but we do have the same spirit. And I've known him since the 5th grade. He was in the 6th grade, and same heart, same spirit, probably the most funkiest, prolific bassist that I know personally. This is none other than my brother, Christopher Rhodes. What's happening, man?
Hey
How are
man,
you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. This is kind of unusual, but you're helping me to open up the new year and the new season with this type of podcast where we can really just be very very transparent about music. So I appreciate you taking your time out. I will say this just as a setup for the audience, and you are one of the busiest musicians I know when musicians are talking about I need a gig or I'm trying to get a gig, you're turning gigs down. So I wanted to have some sort of theme to this episode. I was thinking, what could I name it? Could I name it like, I don't know, Confessions of a Sideman, or, the perils of gigging all the time, or whatever. But you are that busy. So how would you describe yourself? Let's just let you tell the story of what you do as a bass
Well,
player at what's called the DMV, right?
that's right. Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area. Although I grew up in Ohio with my man Jerry, and we have tons of musical memories together. But we're not
Tons.
going to go into that right now. We're going to
Well,
stay
we
on
got to get
topic.
into it a little bit, but let's just start from where you want to. But we have to, at some point, go back to the beginning. But right now in the DMV, tell me what life is like and how you're describing yourself.
As a musician, I would say somewhat of a freelance musician. I used to be a little bit more open. I'm closing that down because I'm picking and choosing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but one of the things that I think there's pros and cons to doing this type of musical work.
Mm-hmm.
And the pros is that you get a strong network, very strong network. You are forced to learn many songs, many genres, and you've got to have everything on point. You have to have, be prepared. And there's a lot involved with that word, being prepared. Not only do you need to know the songs, you need to know your instrument, you need to have a good car, you need, you need to have some music theory behind you.
Mm-hmm.
You must be prepared to adapt to the situation that you may step into. Hopefully, most situations are, I would say, what's expected.
Mm.
But once in a while, you get into a situation, somebody might call a song that they didn't tell you about, or something along those lines, and you're trying to be as prepared as possible because you're out there, you're performing with a variety of different groups. Um, the audience is evaluating the group members are evaluating you.
Mm.
You must be putting your best foot forward, and that's where you start to get into the pros and the cons. As far as
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to expand your network, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's good to say, I don't think I'm going to do this gig because it's going to require a lot of work and preparation. I don't have that much time. I don't want to step out there and not be on be sure footed
Mm-hmm.
with the music, know exactly what's going on, and because sometimes things can go south. Hopefully, it
So,
won't.
so there's not a lot of time to rehearse then with the particular band or artist who's calling you. They're just sending you the music, right?
Sometimes the better ones will have a rehearsal.
Okay.
That's the gold standard. They send the music to you early, you prepare, and then you have a rehearsal, and then everybody is comfortable.
Hmm.
If that makes sense, yes.
Yeah, it does.
Everybody's comfortable, right? So
But
the thing, oh, you want to ask a question? Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, but there are plenty of times where I know you've got called in because maybe the other bass player couldn't make it, or maybe the artists themselves don't have their organizational skills together, and they're calling you at the last minute to kind of save them. I mean, there've been those stories as well, right?
That's absolutely correct. And in those situations, you rely on your repertoire, which
Hmm.
is something that you have to kind of work on all the time to expand your how many songs you know. But then if you do get a song you're unfamiliar with, you must set aside time and start breaking down that song and getting it under your fingers and in your head as quick as possible,
Yeah.
so that you're comfortable with it. Because as the bass player, it's it, as the bass player, it's a unique instrument that sometimes people not really don't understand the role of it, but it's really that instrument that connects the rhythm and it connects to the harmony
Hmm.
and sometimes to the melody. But it's like a connection instrument. It's a fundamental instrument, and you don't want to make a mistake, because when the bass player hit a wrong note, everybody knows
Right.
it. Everybody knows it. And so, sometimes if you're unsure of a note, don't
Hmm.
play the note. I know that might sound bad, but an
Seems
unplayed note isn't a wrong note. It's just unplayed.
that's a bass player's secret or something, huh?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah. Always connect with your drummer too. That's look. That goes back to, man, Jerry and I,
Yeah.
when we
Right.
when we played. I remember, I always connected with the drummer.
Yeah.
We had to. I would watch his foot. We would talk, connect eyes, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
We were talking, and as long as the drummer and the bass player can connect,
Yeah.
the drummer and the bass player can really set the foundation for the band, but they can also be the saviors of the band.
That's true.
So it's very fun that they're the foundation.
That's true. Well, tell me a little bit about your history. I mean, of course, I know it, but I think it's a fascinating one. Of you graduated. We're going to start with high school, so we go back before then, and we were playing music before high school. But you graduated, you went to the Navy, you served our country, you
Right.
retired from the Navy, you got married, and then you begin this life as this in demand dude. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. So I end up, after traveling to various countries, I end up in Maryland,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to establish myself. And so it was a little difficult, believe it or not, for a few years. Some people come here and they establish themselves quickly, but I was like, okay, let me start with going to a few jam sessions. So I located one downtown Baltimore, started going to the jam session. Yeah, I knew how to play. I wanted to go and check out the jam session, see what they were doing, see what the vibe was like, what's going on. So I get there and I realize, I know of some of these songs, but I didn't know a lot of them. So I knew at that point, now this is the mid 90s, and I'm thinking to myself, I need to learn these songs in order to come and at least connect at the jam session.
Hmm.
So I embark on that and I began to play at these jam sessions. And of course, you're playing the songs and the guys are going, "Who's this guy? I don't know." You're going to this major city and these phenomenal players are up there, you know, and they looking at me, they don't know me from Adam. But they said, "Come on up here, man. Come on up here, brother, and do your thing." So I step up there, I do my thing, I play. Of course, they give you a little solo, and they go, "Ooh, he can solo."
Hmm.
And at that point, I would say people started to recognize you, and you start making some connections, but it's still hard to gauge what's really going on in the music scene. You know, what groups do you really want to associate with, and which ones you don't. And I tell you an interesting story. During this time, I was doing the jam sessions too. I was playing with this one group, and we were practicing like 2 weeks, 2 times per week.
Mm.
And I mean, we're practicing, rehearsing, and practicing and rehearsing. And I'm just 100% focused. This is going to be the group and everything. But the group wasn't really practicing that much. And my wife made a comment. She says, "You guys do a lot of practicing, but you ain't playing nowhere."
Oh, you mean they were not gigging that much? They were doing the practicing, but not the gigging. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it.
So all the
So,
rehearsal and no results, basically. Yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah,
right. And then
yeah.
they were having little conflicts. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm scratching my head. And then at some point, I decided, I says, I'm going to try this freelance stuff. Not quite sure how this is going to work out, but
Mm.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Hmm.
So, at that point, I set up a website back in the days when they had websites, not Facebook. There was no Facebook.
Sure.
Set up a little website, sat it out there, and lo and behold, I got a phone call. Well, I met one brother. We talked, did the gig, and from that point, the network just started to grow. Met this person, met that person, met this person, and it kept going and kept going, and met just so many musicians from that point on. And that is really what kicked it off for me.
Hmm.
Everybody's story is a little different.
Certainly.
So does that kind of give a little
Yeah.
bit of background?
It does, absolutely. One of the things that I was wondering about is if you can recall, because I mean, when we were talking earlier, even about this, I'll tell you how this was set up. I was taking down Christmas decorations, and you and I were on the phone, and
Mhm.
we have three other brothers that we grew up with who were close to our hearts: Tyrone Williams, Craig Burney, Eugene Lundy. You know, all of us in that circle. But with respect to Craig, you were just telling me some of the things that you were advising him on as he's turning a chapter in his music career. And I was like, wow, Chris, this would make a great podcast episode because, again, there's so many musicians who are either trying to get into the game or can't seem how to connect. And some of the advice that you were giving, especially from your
Mhm.
experience, made a lot of sense to me. But as you were talking, I was thinking, what was the most, or what would you recall as some of the most challenging gigs that you've done? By the way, I was going to say also that we were talking. Maybe you've done I think a couple thousand since you've showed up there. We were arguing about that, but literally, you have just gigged and gigged and gigged and gigged to the point where you've lost count, and you're turning gigs away. But do you recall any that stand out as, wow, this was really very challenging? Note to self: don't do this anymore, or don't whatever that is.
I can recall one, two particular gigs. But I'll start with the one. So the
Okay.
one gig was starting off in the Inner Harbor, Baltimore. We're
Mm-hmm.
going on a little 3 hour cruise. Sound like Gilligan's Island. We're gonna go out on a little like a dinner cruise, right?
Yeah.
So we're all set up and we're sitting there and we're like, where's the keyboard player? You know, and we're looking at our watch, where's the keyboard player? And we get a call from the keyboard player. And he says, "I'll be there in 5 minutes.
Mm.
I'm right here outside the harbor." And our response was, "Well, that's okay because it's pulling out right now, and there's just gonna be no way for you to get on." So
Wow.
yeah, and we've got to put on this show, and we have a bass. Luckily, I had a 6 string bass,
Mm.
a drummer, and a saxophonist.
Oh my.
Yeah, and we had to play sets.
Now, are these cover tunes that you're doing, or is this
Yeah, we're doing
original
cover
material?
tunes. We're doing
Wow.
cover tunes, but luckily I'm a bass player that I like to mess around with chording
Yeah.
and all a lot of tricks, and I needed every trick I had. And I mean, I had the effects going, the wah. I mean, I had to make it sound full. The drummer was filling up everything. This saxophonist, she was phenomenal. She was playing, she was doing her thing.
Wow.
But I remember at one point during the show, she put her saxophone down,
Mm.
picked up the mic, and we had the whole like little ship was rocking.
Wow.
And as it was coming in, I mean, we were playing on 10 plus,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe. I mean, I'm thinking they are going to be upset that we didn't provide the proper entertainment, and they want to talk about docking money. That's what I was thinking, but it actually went the opposite way.
Wow.
They were like, when can we get you guys back again? Where's your car? This was
Mm.
great. Even the people on the dock, they stopped and they were looking.
Wow.
And that was a very, very challenging gig. But what I did learn is that when you with a team of musicians that's really high,
Mm-hmm. High
with
caliber.
their
Yeah.
abilities, yeah, high caliber musicians, wow, you can pull something like that off.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I can tell you another story too.
Sure.
And it's similar. It looked like it was going to go bad, but it actually turned out well. And it was at one of these jam sessions. So you go to jam session, you don't know who you're going to play with.
Yeah.
So I ended up playing with a drummer with, he's very, very basic,
Mm-hmm.
extremely basic, but he could keep a beat. And so we got up there and I was like, oh man, how did this happen to me? Man. But I'm going to make the most of it. And to my surprise, what the drummer did was one of the best drummer moves I think I mean, it was phenomenal. He
Mm.
didn't do nothing fancy, nothing.
Mm.
He played straight, right down the middle,
Wow.
which gave me the freedom to do all kinds of tricks,
Yeah.
timing tricks and everything. But he stayed straight. And I just remembered at the end of the song, Hey, Chris, wow, that was great. That was phenomenal. Hey, that's Chris Rhodes on the bass. And they were doing all that. And they were saying all that. And I just turned and looked at the drummer and went, wow.
Mm.
Yeah, man. You
That's
know,
fantastic.
yeah, man. I tell you something, Jay. After that, what I started to do, I started to pay attention to, I'm trying to get this light right. Started
Yeah.
to pay
That's good.
attention to, what some of the other drummers was doing. I started paying attention to a drummer. I think everybody knows this guy named Poogie Bell.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I was watching. Everybody see Marcus Miller, but I said, what is Poogie Bell doing when Marcus is soloing? And to my astonishment, I find out he's playing
He's
really straight.
he's
He's not doing a lot.
exactly.
He's holding it down straight, and Marcus is doing all the stuff. And that's when I went, wow,
Yeah. That's
really?
foundation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, to do some name dropping, I mean, because the one thing that I think is very cool about you when I talk to you from time to time is there's a lot of fantastic musicians, like you said, in that area. Without fail, a lot of fantastic bands, but you've been blessed to play with some high caliber name artists as well. And you
Uh-huh.
were close here to Pittsburgh. Who was that? Ronnie Laws or
Yeah, Ronnie
yeah,
Laws and
Ronnie
Deborah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, other musicians you can name drop just for a couple
Oh,
seconds.
just for a little bit. Let me see.
Don't be
That
too
one.
arrogant though. Don't be too arrogant.
Ah, okay. And I did a gig with Kirk Whalum.
Yeah.
That was fun. Did a gig with George Duke. That was fun. I got an upcoming gig with a guy named Jeff Bradshaw. I'm not sure if you know him, but
Mm.
he's a trombonist. I think he was with Jill Scott on tour with her.
Yeah.
But next month we're doing a show in Owens Mills, Maryland.
Mm.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. Got it.
February 11th.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
come on out. Yeah, February 11th in Gordon Center. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And some of the other shows that I've done, I'm trying to think, Lake Arbor Jazz Festival. Oh, Kevin Howard, he's from Pittsburgh. He
Mm-hmm.
plays with Ronnie Laws too. Him, guy named Ronnie Smith, who's making a lot of waves. And then there's just a plethora of musicians here.
Sure.
That's you hear them on the charts. You know who I'm thinking about right now. Kevin Walker. He's a bass player though, but he played with Justin Timberlake. We hang around all these guys all the time. We are
Sure.
always out and about.
Yeah.
Currently,
Which
I'm playing with a guy, Isaac Parham. He's very extremely well known in Baltimore. Oh my
mhm.
gosh. Man, I pull up to the parking lot and says, I'm playing with Isaac Parham, and the gate just opens up. Just
That's fantastic. Well, tell me this: do you have a list that you recommend to younger musicians coming up, like a list of five do's and five don'ts? Make sure you do this. Make sure you never ever do that. You know.
always focus on what you should do. The main thing you want to do, you need to be well versed in your instrument. That means if you're a bass player or any instrument that you play, but you should practice
Mm-hmm.
every day, because that will allow you to be at the peak of your game.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing you should do. Another thing you probably want to do is constantly work on developing you, meaning don't it's fine to have your musical heroes, but you have to find your own sound and find your own musical vocabulary,
Yeah,
and you have to develop that so that you sound like you. Yeah. And so
that's
that's
good.
something, yeah, that's something that I've always, I think, like, Stanley is my man. I love some Stanley Clark. He does our stuff, but I can't be Stanley. I only
Yeah,
can be me. I'm influenced by him, but I
sure.
practice being me. So, those are two things right there. The third one I would say, and I mentioned this earlier, develop your repertoire. The more songs you know, the easier it is for people to give you a call.
Mm-hmm.
If you one of those musicians who practice in the basement all the time and don't play out with other people and have a very limited repertoire, it's going to be hard for you to get a call.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I would tell young musicians, work on your repertoire.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that one.
excellent.
I would also recommend the more you play with different musicians, the better you become, especially when you play with musicians that are better than you.
Certainly.
That 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 really, because it points out, your weaknesses and your strengths,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what you need to work on so you can get to a higher level.
Yeah,
So, these things are really important for any a musician playing any instrument.
yeah.
These are important. The one thing I would say not to do. I'm trying to put this as professionally as possible. Um, if you're one of those musicians and you play in the basement all the time, you don't play with a lot of musicians,
Mm-hmm.
you can fall into this trap where you may be able to play very well, but you don't know how to play well with others.
Gotcha.
And that's not, you're not going to get called back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'd be like, he can play real well, but something quite ain't. And sometimes it's something in your playing. Sometimes it could be a personality trait. You could just be too overbearing, or you could be pointing out what others are doing wrong or something. So that's when your people skills come into to play.
Right, right. That's good.
Can you yeah. You gotta be able to as they say, you gotta be a good hang.
Yeah.
You gotta be a good hang. I'm trying.
Yeah.
What was this one? I got some advice. They said there's three things you need to do as a musician. You says you need to be on time. You need to be prepared and be able to play the songs. Be on time, be prepared, and be easy to get along with. He says, and sometimes you ain't got to do all three.
Huh.
But if you missing two of those,
That's it,
that's
huh?
it. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Because I've seen people, they're not the best players in the world, but they're
Mhm.
trying their best. They're on time. They're dedicated. You don't keep them around.
Yeah.
I've seen some players, they might be on time. They might can play well, but if you can, they're just horrible to be around.
Hmm.
And if you're horrible to be around and then you're late, oh, right.
See,
Yeah, yeah,
understood.
yeah.
Understood.
So,
Wow. Well, let me ask this question. You, unfortunately, or interestingly, better word, uh, are not recorded. You don't. You don't have a Christopher Rhodes record or a Christopher Rhodes band. I mean, I know you're busy, 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 busy. I know that, but nothing. You know, nothing in the laboratory that's you're stirring up to record
well,
your own work or what?
I have a great desire to record my work.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do this, I must carve out time,
Mm-hmm.
personal time to get this done, which is one of the reasons why I have been cutting back on a lot of gigs, especially last minute stuff. Just I don't want to do it. Um, I do have a concern about today's musical environment or musical marketplace, meaning, you put time and effort into a recording and what or do you really get? Because we all are aware that people do not download songs, they don't buy CDs or albums or nothing like that. They stream everything.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know,
Mm-hmm.
when music is streamed, the artist literally gets nothing. I mean, they get
Correct.
pennies on the dollar if they're lucky. I have a buddy of mine. He have a CD and it got he got a $20 check after 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
$20 check. Yeah,
Yeah.
he made all his money from his project on the gigs that we played by, and people would buy the CDs.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
interesting because, and there's the interesting part: people buy the CDs because they
Yeah.
want to support you, but they don't have a CD player.
Yeah. Interesting, right? I did the same thing. Lori and I just went out up to Cleveland to see Maria Jacobs at Blue Jazz. As a matter
Mm-hmm.
of fact, we were in Akron, and
Mm-hmm.
great show. And definitely pulled out a 20 to buy Maria's CD because she did a knockout show, and it was just that's what it was. It was like support. You want to support. You've already paid for the tickets. That's one thing, but you want to support her artistry. But the same vibrancy that she gives in her recordings, unfortunately, because of the streaming, you know, penalization. I'm trying to find a nice word to use.
You're right.
She's getting pennies, less than pennies per
Right.
stream.
Right.
So it's
And
really
so
interesting.
that's one of the things that I'm like, how to do this. But
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you. I need a recorded project, and I picked some songs and things that I want to do because I do like to do the piccolo bass where you're playing the melody on the bass. That's something I enjoy,
Yeah.
and that really streams from Stanley Clark in my formative years. I
Mm-hmm.
seen him, and I wanted to do that. A lot of guys that do it now, but
Yeah.
I still I've been working on it for decades, and when I do use that performance, that part of my performing, it's usually extremely well received.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they like it a lot. It really works well in some of the shows. So that is one of the things that I'm definitely going to be working on. But with all of that in mind, in 2023, it appears to me that it's more than just having a recording. You've got to have a platform to promote
Absolutely.
yourself.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
that in a way, in a great way to me, seems to be the thing that really drives these artists is how well they promote themselves.
Absolutely.
So, so,
Definitely.
so stay tuned. One of the things we're going to be working on is some video. I'm going to work on I have a group that I've met along the way, and we're going to make some musical videos. And I think that's going to come before the recording
Oh, there you go.
because, and I'm going to tell you why too. This.
Mhm.
I think this part is important, and people might disagree with me, but I've noticed that a lot of artists in this area have phenomenal talent, and they make these phenomenal CDs, but they have no way to really promote it,
Sure.
and it kind of gets localized. I'll be like, what
Yeah. Yeah.
is
I agree
going
with
on?
that.
This, yeah, and I'm thinking maybe we should do it the opposite way.
Mm.
Maybe you should focus on your promotion of you first, get people interested, ready, get them ready, and then when your project do hit, they're ready to buy it right away.
Hmm. Very
Instead
cool.
of so we'll see.
Yeah. No, that's
When
real
you hear the
good.
name, buy the CD.
No, I dig that. I dig it. So you mentioned your formative years, man. I think that this would be a good place to roll out what you were doing at Grant Elementary School in the sixth grade. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I know my side of the story of how we got together, but and it was through Tyrone, and I was in the fifth grade, but you were in the sixth grade. So why don't you set up that whole? How did this whole musical thing get started for you? Because I know my part of it, not yours.
Really? This it's gonna sound kind of corny, but it's gonna sound corny. It's gonna kind of we were very young when I
We
say
were.
young, our voices hadn't changed,
Right, right.
and it turns out one of our very dear brothers, Craig,
Mm.
loves singing Michael Jackson songs, and
Craig
he
sang. Is that what you're
see.
telling me?
It's true, man. I'm telling you, I mean,
Wow.
and to me, he sounded just like him. Now at that point, my ear wasn't developed, but I mean, he sounded like him to me, and I'm like, we were gonna have this singing group,
Mm.
and then at some point, we realized we need to have instruments. And long story short, we all kind of started picking instruments,
Mm.
and at the
Now,
time,
what
I was
grade were
just
you?
stuck eating the bait.
What
This
grade were
is
you in? Fifth
sixth
grade?
grade,
Sixth grade?
sixth,
Okay. Okay.
sixth
Okay.
grade.
Yeah.
And so at some point, I'm the stuck E. I got stuck with playing basses.
Huh.
Tyrone, he said, I'm playing guitar. And Craig said, I'm playing keys. And I'm like, well, we need a bass player. Chris, you're gonna be the bass player. But it was good.
Wow.
I was cool with it. I was good with it. But wow, those formative years were tough, man, because
Yeah.
we were young.
Yeah.
Parents didn't have money to buy these extra instruments. I remember learning bass on a guitar, playing the first,
Four
top strings of the
strings.
guitar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Tyrone introduced us to Jerry,
Mm.
and then we all became brothers. But we would
Yeah.
had to practice outside, and
Yeah.
we had this. Here we go, blow over amps. These amps were so cheap that when we played outside, when the wind would blow, it would blow the amp over, and it would just fall
Just
flat.
cascade, right?
Yeah, formative years. Uh, what's
Wow.
the word they use nowadays? 2023. Humble beginnings.
Yeah, very much, very, very humble. And we were
Humble.
we were all outside, and you have to set up Hawthorne Street where you and Craig were down maybe four houses between
Mm-hmm.
you, three or four houses. Tyrone,
Across the street.
across the street, and then I'm up the hill about 3 blocks.
Right.
And everything that we had could either fit in the driveway or in one of our basements. And the cool thing about those days was we would take turns in each other's basements, not mine up on Woodland Avenue, but more so on Hawthorne, until the
Right.
parents got tired. So we would leave 2 weeks
Right.
at Craig's and then 3 weeks at Tyrone and a month at yours, or
Right.
whatever parent got tired, then we just have to pack
We
up
had to
and
move.
go.
We had to go to the next house. Right. But they didn't realize they were keeping us out of trouble because
That's true.
we were in the basement
That's
practicing.
true. That's
It's
true.
like that's what we were doing.
Yeah,
So and it carried on for decades.
it did. It
Later.
did. Now
Yeah, we still do.
tell us, because this is for posterity's sake, because we played for a while in a quartet group called the Gospel Flames of Warren, Ohio. And
Right.
again, I don't think that that was some. I don't know if that was Tyrone or you. How did we get involved with traveling around the country with
Oh,
the Gospel Flames?
okay. This is the way I understand how it went down. It initially started, I believe, with Tyrone. Tyrone was working or doing something in junior high school, now called middle school. He
Yeah.
met a guy named Milton. Milton told him
Yeah.
about his quartet group. Tyrone kind of started playing with them. At that point, Tyrone let them know that, hey, me and my guys, we play music, and they were in need of,
Musicians. Yeah.
some musicians and stuff. So, and I distinctly remember this. I think he got Eugene to sing with him first. He got you to play drums with him.
No, I thought
I
you.
was I was the
I
holdout.
really. So
Because I,
I was playing with the Flames before you came
I
in.
I mean when I think we came on at the same time, but I think you
Okay.
agreed to play with them, and I didn't agree. And I was like, I don't like that music. I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm being honest, and but I'm gonna tell you what broke me down, man. What broke me down? I was just telling Tyrone this last night. I said, Ty, man, when you and Eugene was saying, look, Chris, just man, do it for us. He said, I said, Ty, man, when y'all said it like that, I was like, I just hung my head down low, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do it for y'all. But in the back of my mind, I
Oh
was
my
thinking,
God.
and when this thing is over with, I'm never doing this. That's what I was thinking. I mean, I'm young. We were young. We was 14, 15.
Yeah, man.
And
Yeah.
we went and played and practiced with them. And here's this connects what I said to earlier. When we got there, the guys in the Gospel Flames were so nice to us.
Yeah, that's true.
They were
That's true.
so thankful that we played and
Yeah.
supported them.
Yeah. Let's say their names, man, because I don't believe they're here anymore. Isaiah Wright,
Yeah, Ike Wright, Isaiah Wright, but we call him Ike Wright or Mr.
Les,
Wright. No,
Les.
yep,
Yeah, we just
Peterman,
said Ike, but Les Peterman, and then
mm-hmm. Pete.
I'm sporting his haircut now. Pete Peterman. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yep,
Les. Yeah, Les Peterman, Pete Peterman. Yeah, the
yep.
Gospel Flames of Warren,
Warren,
Ohio.
right.
What training ground? I mean, that was grace under fire, because we really learned how to gel as a band when we had to go from city to city, or church. We were doing churches. That was the
Mm-hmm.
platform at the time. But just to make sure that we knew how to back up because we were in the back, they were singing up front, sort of like the Temptation, so to speak. But how to break it down and carve out a show. I mean, that was like
Yeah,
the training
and I
ground
think
for us,
I
right?
think the other thing that we learned how to do, and I think this is one of the most important things, is when they were sometimes having vocal harmonization challenges.
That's good. I like that.
We would step up and kind of take control of the show
Sure.
or the performers, distract them, give them a moment to reset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we came very good at that. And I think there was a point where there was initially they didn't realize what we were doing. But then one time, I think they realized exactly what we were doing.
Right.
And at that point, I remember them. They were more focused, and we had gained their trust. And I remember at that point, we presented an original song to them. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna give credit to it was Tyrone that came up with the way to construct the song,
Yeah.
and I believe it was Eugene that came up with the melody and the words. And we put the song together. We presented it to the guys, and the song was very well put together. It was very well received.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good
But
times.
I've told you this before, but the song was the undoing of the group because
Well, we that'll be another podcast episode.
yeah,
Okay, the undoing of things.
yeah.
That's what
And the
we'll
thing
call that
about it
one.
is, and the only thing I'm gonna say about that is that when you have a good thing going, everybody wants to be a part of it.
That's it.
That's
That's it.
that's really, and sometimes you just got to keep it tight.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and
Boundaries. You got to know what your boundaries are
right,
and
and we
protect them.
right, and we weren't able to do that, and uh, it could have been so good.
I know. I know, but here's the thing, and I mean this with all my heart. This would be a great cliffhanger right here. One day maybe the four of us, or the five of us, including
Mhm.
Eugene, could talk about being child musicians, church musicians, band musicians, growing all of the stretching and growing and conflict that comes with that. But you're right. You said one thing that was right on point. Being in those basements, being in that van, traveling from city to city, kept us out of trouble. It really did. It kept our attentions
Mhm.
diverted from a lot of the stuff that was going on in the streets in Youngstown, Ohio, at that time. And it also really gave us the character, it built character in us, like you said, in our people skills and of being appropriate musicians that can pivot. Because a lot of times, especially with the Flames, we have to pivot on a dime.
Yep.
And it taught us how to be tight musicians, how to anticipate what may be coming next, what's unseen around the corner, the musical corner, so to speak.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I'm
Right.
grateful to be your brother, man. I really am. I'm grateful that you gave me the time to do this episode, and yeah, we'll have other conversations. But thank you for gracing me the way you have, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for connecting with me, and I think you have a great idea. Bring all our brothers in. You're gonna have to
Absolutely.
have part one, part two, part seven, editing, major editing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with
He's
that.
like, no, we're not gonna cut that part out.
I agree with that. But not that you're
Yeah.
taking on gigs, but how could people get in touch with you, man? Is it just through your Facebook page, or how do you want people to connect with you,
Right
brother?
now, it's just through the Facebook page. Just through the
Cool.
Facebook page. Just send me, inbox me on the Facebook, and I'm not a big Facebook fan, but I'll get to it.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, blessings to you, man, Chris. I appreciate you, brother. Much love
I appreciate
to
you
you.
too, and I
Absolutely.
can't wait to the next one. This is so fun.
I knew you were going to love it.
The next time.
Yeah, wait a minute. Hold on one second. You got me out beforehand because you were talking and I cut you off. You say it again. Next time you'll do what?
Next time I'll have a bass in my hand.
Yeah, that'll work. That's the way we'll do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, sorry for the false ending, but that's my brother and friend, Christopher Rhodes. As I said before, you can catch him on Facebook, and we'll put all of that information in the show notes. So very grateful that he gave us our time, and hopefully you received some insights on what working musicians kind of do and don't do, especially those who are not solo artists or not connected with a band as he is. But my name is Jerry B. Here's what I want you to do: like, subscribe, share this video, tell 5 people that you know, and maybe 2 that you don't know, that you get down with the Entree Musician. We are entree musicians, entrepreneurial musicians, doing everything we can to keep life on point. But I want you to know that you are a entree musician as well. Live it out loud, grow it. Come check us out at theentremusician.com, and we'll see you next time. Peace and blessings to you.